What if Canada's next big economic bet pits prairie canola against electric cars from China? Right as a U.S. immigration crackdown sends more people looking north, and Trump turns up the heat on trade and defense. Ottawa weather first. Expect a high around -2 degrees Celsius and a low near -12 degrees Celsius with snow at times. Here's what's shaping your day in the capital and across Canada. Pressure is building on Canada's immigration system as uncertainty spikes in the United States. A new crackdown south of the border, along with policy shifts like ending temporary protected status for some groups, has people from places like Minnesota to Venezuelan communities asking about moving to Canada. The Canadian Council for Refugees says humanitarian conditions in parts of the U.S. are deteriorating for migrants, with increased risks of apprehension and deportation. For Ottawa, this is both a test and an opportunity. Our city's settlement agencies have handled waves before, but capacity and coordination matter, especially if numbers jump. Advocates are also warning Canada not to get complacent. Political pressures can shift fast, even in a country that's been relatively welcoming. On the farm front, a tale of two China deals that matter to the Ottawa Valley and beyond. First, the good news for agriculture. China has lifted its ban on Canadian beef that's been in place since 2021, with the first shipments expected next week. Beijing is also moving quickly on Canadian canola and peas after a deal that lowers some tariffs. Canola seed down to 15%, and tariffs removed on canola meal and peas. That should help diversify markets and bring some relief to producers. But the picture is complicated. An interim agreement reduces some tariffs starting March 1st through year's end, yet canola oil still faces a punishing 100% tariff, and long-term certainty is still out of reach because Canada is standing by anti-dumping measures on Chinese steel and aluminum. Ottawa has extended tariff remissions on certain Chinese metal products through 2026 where there's no domestic supply, while accusing China of unfair subsidies in those sectors. Layered over all of this is a controversial EV trade deal. Ottawa is allowing up to 49,000 Chinese-made electric vehicles into Canada annually as part of a broader effort to attract joint ventures and build an EV ecosystem here. In exchange, China lowered barriers on Canadian agricultural goods like seafood and canola. That sparked a political and industry backlash, most loudly from Ontario, where Premier Doug Ford is urging a boycott of Chinese EVs, and auto groups warn domestic investments could be undermined without large-scale Canadian production ready to go. The Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association is stressing the need to keep our U.S. trade relationships tight, especially with a mandated CUSMA review looming. For climate hawks in the capital, the EV push aligns with emissions goals. But the how and who benefits will be debated hard in the months ahead. South of the border, tensions with Washington are very much part of Ottawa's calculus. President Donald Trump is claiming that Canada owes its very existence to American support, and criticizing Prime Minister Mark Carney for warning about coercive tactics by great powers. Trump even floated a so-called Golden Dome missile defense system that he says would also protect Canada. In response, the federal government is convening a cabinet meeting focused on the economy and train ties, with an eye on both security and a CUSMA review. Expect more positioning and some sharp elbows as Canada rethinks assumptions about geography and alliances guaranteeing prosperity and safety. Internationally, Mexico has transferred 37 cartel members to the U.S. at Washington's request. President Claudia Sheinbaum calls it a sovereign decision in Mexico's national interest, despite critics suggesting U.S. pressure played a role, especially after Trump's earlier threats of military action against cartels. Observers say the move helps Mexico show concrete action against organized crime, while tensions in the region are already high following a U.S. military operation in Venezuela. Meanwhile, in Europe, leaders are testing strategies to navigate Trump's unpredictable diplomacy. Britain's attempt at respectful engagement over the Greenland saga ran into fresh criticism from Trump on the separate Diego Garcia decision. There's a broader pattern analysts point to. Countries that have enriched Trump's orbit through gifts or financial ties have fared better than those relying on traditional arguments. It's an uncomfortable reality check for rules-based diplomacy at a time when Canada is trying to protect its own interests without getting dragged into transactional politics. Back home, the federal gun buyback program has launched, and reaction is mixed. Toronto police say they haven't ruled it out, but need more operational details before participating. The Toronto Police Association supports taking a wait-and-see approach until there's a viable plan. Manitobans won't see the province administer the program. Its government says it won't stop crime, and federal officials acknowledge challenges in provinces like Saskatchewan and Alberta. For owners, there's a 2-month window to declare interest to be eligible for compensation, with a total fund of $248.6 million offered on a first-come, first-served basis. We're hearing confusion from some gun owners, especially those without easy digital access, about how to proceed. For Ottawa residents, watch for local guidance on collection logistics and timelines if the program expands through municipal or police partners. Sports now, starting in Toronto, where the Maple Leafs fell 2-1 in overtime to the Red Wings. Dylan Larkin buried the winner at 3:08 of OT. Toronto's offense couldn't build on its recent hot streak. Austin Matthews, who's led the NHL in goals this calendar year, was held off the scoresheet. Joseph Woll was busy, turning away 39 shots. The Leafs are 1-2-2 in their last 5 after ripping off an 8-0-2 run. Injury notes: veteran defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson left part of the game with a lower body issue, and William Nylander was out with a groin problem. For fans here in Ottawa keeping tabs on a potential playoff path through the Atlantic, Detroit's surge, 7-1-0 in their last 8, tightens the race above the Sens. Out west, the Winnipeg Jets top the Blues 3-1. Powered by backup goalie Eric Comrie's timely stops and a big night from Mark Scheifele, who scored twice and added an assist. The Jets bagged 2 power play goals in just 93 seconds in the first period, setting the tone. St. Louis got its lone marker from Jordan Kyrou on a second-period power play, and afterward Justin Falk lamented the lack of pressure on Comrie. Before we go, 2 threads to watch that connect today's headlines to climate and tech. First, the EV trade debate isn't just about cars. It's about supply chains, jobs, and how fast Canada can decarbonize transport without hollowing out manufacturing. Ottawa's challenge is to land real production here, not just imports, so climate ambition and industrial strategy move together. Second, the immigration shift at the U.S. border could intersect with Canada's push for high-demand skills, including in clean tech and AI. If Ottawa can align humanitarian intake with targeted settlement and training, there's a chance to strengthen both our social fabric and our innovation economy. That's it for today. Ottawa's high around -2 degrees Celsius, dipping to -12 degrees Celsius tonight, with snow in the mix. If you found this helpful, share the show and follow for more local and national updates. We'll be back tomorrow.